Today's episode of the Outline Podcast is brought to you by Vinyl Me Please, one of the best record of the month clubs ever. Membership includes exclusive special edition LPs, original art prints, custom cocktail recipes, and access to member exclusive products in their very cool online store. Join today by going to www.joinvmp.com/outlinepod. Let's start the show.
The outline. With Kevin Dwayne. The outline. With Kevin Dwayne. This is the outline. With Kevin Dwayne. Kevin Dwayne. Kevin Dwayne. With Kevin Dwayne.
Good morning. This is the Outline Podcast. I am Kevin Dwayne. Thank you so much for joining me for another show. I am filming this in the morning because instead of doing it on Tuesday nights, which I'm not saying I'm swearing off of Tuesday nights, I want to be more energetic on the podcast. And I feel like I am recording this thing after a long day of work, after I done sent hella emails cussing people out and yelling and being mean as fuck. Well, I don't really yell, but being mean as fuck. And I think it's an energy drain. So for me to film this at the end of the night, it's just my energy is different. So I was like, you know what? Let me film it the morning of so I'm nice and vibrant and you get my beginning energy. I was gonna run first so I can have some extra endorphins, but things don't always go as planned, and that's okay. Just go with the flow. So I traded my water in for some coffee, and I was like, let me record this podcast and do this show. So I hope your week is going well. This week is actually decent. It's Wednesday, so only 2 days have passed, but it hasn't been too busy. Monday was Columbus Day. I still had to work because I don't work for a bank, but it was still a mellow day. So it was pretty chill. Just, watch some TV. And I think I watched Selena randomly. I wanted to revisit that movie. I hadn't watched it in 20 years. It came out in it came out in 1997. And it just had, I think, the 20th anniversary in March. So I watched that movie on HBO now. And it's still sad as fuck today. Still sad. I still was holding back tears at the end. Damn, Selena, you was about to do your English crossover. You were you just got your Grammy. You were doing it. And then that bitch, she just you gotta watch these people. I found it interesting 20 years later that she hired a fan essentially. Yolanda Salivar, I think that's her name. She was a fan. And she made her the fan club president. And then she let her be the registered agent over her businesses. There were just bad decisions all around. But I'm she was a fanatic. No, but you live and learn. But that shit was sad. It was so sad. That ending, those ending credits when they show the footage of her, actual performances and her face and stuff. I was like, man, this is sad as fuck. So whatever, but J-Lo made a hell of a career out of that. I mean, she was a fly girl on Living Color, and she was also one of Janet Jackson's background dancers. But that movie really catapulted her into where she is now, and there's no need to even argue that. That's just the truth, and she made do on it. In a weird way, it's she took the success of Selena and was okay, now that I'm acting Selena, let me go ahead and just put out my own music and just do this thing, because she's still killing the game now. J-Lo, that is. She's still killing the game. In her 40s, almost 50. So I don't know, but whatever. I watched it on Monday. Yesterday, Tuesday, I decided to go to the office and work because Pride is this weekend. The big Pride. As you guys know, in Atlanta, there's 3 prides pretty much. There's the unofficial Black Pride, which is MLK weekend. Then there's Black Pride, which is, I want to say, Labor Day weekend. And then there is the Everyone Pride, which is this weekend, which is October 13th through 15th or something like that, or I mean whatever the dates are. But I always do the parade with Coca-Cola, so the mixer was yesterday at 6:30. So I was like, well, let me be in the area because I don't work near where it was or the office. I'm about 35 minutes away from the office. So I decided instead of dealing with traffic and all that, I would just go to the office and work and get some stuff done. And so I was very productive yesterday. Got a lot done. Still tons to do because that's just my life right now. And after I went to the bar, they held it at 10. If you're in Atlanta, you know where 10 is. It's off of 10th and Piedmont. It's a gay bar over there. And it was cool. Free drinks. Got my t-shirt for the parade. And, they had like raffles and things like that. So I did that. Then after it, because there was no food I could eat there, I went to Green Sprout, which is this vegetarian restaurant off of Monroe and Piedmont. Ate in like 15 minutes. I know that waitress was like, damn. Like I walked in, ordered my food, she put it in front of me, scarfed that shit down, paid the check, and was back in my car like by 8:18. I remember that. Came home, did some reading, went to bed. Although I woke up again, I couldn't sleep that well last night. I didn't really sleep until almost 2, but I attempted to go to bed around like 9:30, 10, but it didn't work out that way. But I'm fine this morning though, so it's cool. So that leads us into Wednesday. So here we are. Pride's this weekend. Excited about that. I like doing Pride because it's just, the parade is an interesting experience because of all the energy, and it's just really, really fun. And like I spoke about on the last episode, I don't know how much longer I'm going to be doing the corporate thing or be doing the regular 9 to 5. So I'm feeling like I'm wrapping up my time with doing these things with a major company. I'll do it by myself later or whatever. But, I'm kind of like pretending like this might be my last year doing this because I don't know. I really feel like the entrepreneurial thing is coming soon, but I digress. Too much information. But speaking of work, I wanted to shout out a listener and a great supporter of the show, Kayla Stevenson. She is like a super fan of like hella podcasts. Like every week on Twitter, she's always shouting out all her favorite podcasts, and I am honored to be one of them. And she's an author. So last week, after listening to the show and hearing me bitch and moan about, my job blues, she sent me her book, and it's called Monday Mornings, A Cup of Laughter. And you can actually find it on Amazon right now. I'll put the link in the info box so you can go find it. It is hilarious. I've read the first few chapters. I'm not done yet, but it's great, like stories about shit we go through at work, but it's very humorous. And what I love about the first chapter, she asked the question, have you taken your medicine yet? And what she means by have you taken your medicine, she's talking about self-reflection. Like, have you looked in the mirror and really asked yourself, what's the issue? What are the issues I'm having? Is it me not going after my passion? Is it that I just hate the job? Or hell, is it me? Am I doing something to bring on this energy? Like, we have to realize that we're responsible for what we put off. Like, am I being an asshole? Am I taking home life to work and vice versa? Like, am I drawing this attention by being, mean as fuck at work? And I know I'm good for that. Like, there are times where I'm dry as hell and I know people are just meeting my energy. And basically by saying taking your medicine, she's saying self-reflect, like reflect and see what it is. But check it out. It's a really good book. And there is, I believe, a hard copy and a Kindle. It may be like a paperback. I'm not sure at all. I just know you can order an actual copy of the book, but there's also a Kindle edition as well on Amazon. So check it out. It's funny. I cracked up even through the prologue intro stuff. Like, she's very funny. So shout out to Kayla Stevenson. Thank you so much for your support. And you're amazing. Keep thriving. So check it out. Monday Mornings, A Cup of Laughter on Amazon. All right, so let's get to some other things. Where do I start? Because I feel like it's like 3 negatives and 1 positive. So let's go with the positive first, because Yeah, it seems that that's gonna be the best way to go about it. So I got to see SZA on Monday night, and I don't know why I didn't even think about including that. I forgot that quick. That's why Monday was a blur because I was so busy thinking about SZA. So she was playing here in Atlanta at Tabernacle, which is downtown. So around 6 o'clock, I left my house and was like, okay, I want to get there because the show starts at 8, so the doors will probably open at like 7:15. There's probably going to be a line. And I was right about all of that. When you've gone to enough concerts, you start knowing to get down and you prepare accordingly. So since it was Columbus Day, there was no traffic. So I got there hella quick. Like I was like, oh shit, I'm here already. So I ended up getting in the line, which was wrapped around the corner. And it was a sold out show at Tabernacle, and Tabernacle was a pretty sizable venue space. It was an old church. Atlanta has a thing about turning old churches into to different venues because there's another club called Museum Bar that used to be an old church. So, partying in the pulpit, it's fun. I'm here for it. So get there, and then I begin to text my friend Jinkies. Shout out to Jinky. So he was going to the show as well. I had a general audience ticket because that was all that was online when I bought the ticket. I was on the site at like 9:58 a.m. because I was like, I'm gonna see SZA. I don't care. I just want to see her. And the only tickets that were available were general admission. I guess they were selling those first before they sold seats. I don't know, but I ended up getting a general admission ticket. So I hit him up and was like, hey, do you want to meet up there and we can watch the show together or whatever. He's like, oh yeah, cool. But it turns out he actually had a seat, so he met me in the line and we got in, and he had a seat. I was like, okay. So he was like, well, I'll still come down with you if they let me down. But the guard there was like, oh no, you have to go up to your seat. So he texted me, it was like, send me a screenshot of your ticket. I'm still gonna come down there. And I was like, damn. I was like, okay. So I sent it to him and he came down. And I was just really just kind of like, I don't know, that was dope to me. Like, he could have been in his seat on the balcony. I don't know many people who are gonna be like, okay, I'll give up my seat just to be down in general audience with all these kids, to watch a show with you. But it wasn't as bad. The only issue with general admission is, first of all, it's depends on the fan base. SZA's like 23, 24 or somewhere around that age. Like she's like, just out of college age. So her fans are that and younger. So it was a lot of young black like teens and early 20 somethings, you know what I mean? It was an 18 and over venue. So a lot of them were very inconsiderate, to say the least. A lot of like, oh, excuse me, getting in front of you, which is to be expected with general admission stuff. I've been to enough shows to know that's what you deal with, and you have to just prepare your mind before. You're going to be standing for a long time. There's going to be people jumping in front of you. It just is what it is. So for Jinkies to be like, oh, I'll come down in this mess just to watch the show with you was dope to me. So thank you for doing that. It was a good time. So back to the show. The energy in the room was pretty amazing. There were a lot of super fans there. Like I said, it was sold out, and it was just something about seeing all these people standing up and just really enjoying their time and just really having a great time outside of all the yelling. Like there were moments where I would look up at the stage and all I could see was phones. Like I could not see the stage. And it's one of those things where you're like, this is where we are. I can't be upset because this is where we are with technology. We are so bent on recording every single moment. Like with me, I was like, let me get my one clip so I can save it for later, but I'm not going to record the whole show. And you had a lot of people who were like holding their phones like the entire time. Like I'm talking about like their phones never went down. Like I was like, Jesus, like they're going to have the whole show on their phones. And I get it because that's how it gets on YouTube and all that stuff. People love to share it. So I get it. But there was moments where I was like, shit, I can't even see the stage like at all because everyone had their phones out. And between that and, and moving their hands and dancing, it was pretty intense, but that was the negative of the show. But everything else was positive. Opening acts. First opening act was a singer named Raven Lenae. Never heard of her before, but she was from Chicago. She was dope. She sang like house music, And she had kind of a Solange vibe to me. That was how I kind of took it. She reminded, like, during Solange's first couple albums, like Solo Star and maybe Hadley Street, that album, she had kind of that sound. Her look was super cute. She had, like, you know, like the black kind of jogger pants with, not joggers, but black flowy pants with like a mesh top and like these earrings that look like Christmas decorations, but it was cute. Nice natural hairdo with like a red curly hairdo. It was cute. Like, and she had a great vocal. Like, she sounded really good live. I told Jinkies, I was like, she has a confident vocal where you can tell she's been doing it for a while. Like, she enunciated very well. She had a good personality, and I enjoyed her. I definitely followed her on Instagram, and I'm gonna check out more of her music later. After her was another guy I never heard of named Smino. Now, I feel like I may have been in the minority that night, because when he came out, people went crazy. So other people knew who Smino was. I had no idea who he was, but his set was okay. He kind of did like a sing rap situation, and he was kind of drowned out by the music and the crowd, so you couldn't really hear him. But outside of that, he bought out T-Pain. T-Pain did his thing. You know, he's from Atlanta, so, you know, they had that little moment of like homage. And I think the funniest part about Smino was he had someone who, I think their one job was to roll a blunt. I kid you not, because he sang his song about weed consumption, very original, and someone came out and handed him a blunt that was already lit. And I was like, he had one job tonight. And I'm not even mad at it. Like, he literally came and, oh, that was funny to me. But he did his set, and that was that. So, on to SZA. What I enjoyed about the spacing of the show, there wasn't too many long waits. It was typically, I would say, about 15 minutes tops between each set. There wasn't a long time in between. I mean, the show started at 8, and we were out by about 10:45. So if that gives you any kind of idea of how smooth it went. So after Smino got off, they started fixing, you know, the band started adjusting and, you know, testing out, doing all their stuff or whatever. And I cracked up because one of the set people came. He started pulling off the tarps that were on the Control, the name of the album. So this is album Control. He was pulling off the tarps that was covering up the letters. And so he removes the first one, and it shows the C. The crowd goes crazy. They're like, because, you know, it's the idea the show's about to start. So he pulls the first tarp off. And this is not a part of the show, mind you. They're just getting the stage ready. It's not like they were lighting up or anything. He was just pulling them off. So they're going crazy for that. So then he pulls the T off. They go crazy for that. So literally, they go crazy for every letter that he reveals. I'm like, that is hilarious to me, because it's probably going to be another 10 minutes before she gets on this damn stage. But whatever. So they did that. So it's time for the show to start. And it was just amazing. She came out. It started off with Supermodel. It started off how the album starts out. They played the interlude with her mom talking, which, you know, that album is just so good. It's such a good album. So she came out, did Supermodel. She had like a red cup in her hand. It was very homegirl. She had her jacket on, like you know, like we was just kicking it. And like the energy is what really drove the concert home. Like her energy, she was super lit. She sounds really good live. She sounds just like her album. She just seems like a really dope person. And then the crowd loved her so much. And I think what was great about it was you can tell that people really connect to her and her music. It wasn't like just going to like a rap concert or just a concert of someone who's just there to entertain. You could tell that people really felt where she was coming from on this album. And I was one of them. I was very much someone who really connected with the content of the album, and the energy was just great the whole time. The set list was amazing. She started with Supermodel and ended with 20 something, which is how the album is, but the rest was kind of mixed up, and it just really drove home the fact that that album is really a classic not a classic, but you can't call it something a classic at present. But the fact that the album is just a really great piece of work. And I'm curious to see what she's going to do after this, because her set was perfect. Like, literally every song on that album is phenomenal. And she did every track except Pretty Little Birds, which is not, I don't think that's anyone's favorite. It's a good song, but it's whatever. She did every song off the album, and she did 2 other songs off of like her mixtapes. Like, she did You and Babylon, which are popular songs by her anyway. But it was just a great set, and like, I was really pleased. I know moving forward, if I see her again, I will be getting a seat. I think I've reached my max of general admission standing room only concert. I just can't, because it's too many factors. You're clustered in with people who don't really care. Everyone's really selfish. Everyone is there for self, and I can't be mad at that. They pay for their tickets too. And then you're standing for long periods of time, feet start hurting, and don't have to use the restroom or get something to drink, then you lose your spot. It's just, there's comfort in having a seat. And that's what grown folks do. So I think I'm going to tap out of the general admission for a bit. Unless it's like a smaller venue. Because I went to PJ Morton a couple months ago, and that was fine. Like, it was at the Loft. No, it was at Vinyl, which is same space, but they have 3 different stages there. He was at the Loft, I'm sorry, I'm fucking up. He was at Vinyl. And that was fine. It was like a small kind of club scenario, but it was grown folks, and that's the difference. You have to consider the fans of the artist too. And so he's much older, he's in his 30s, so his crowd was grown folks. And so everyone was either at the bar, there was space. I wasn't like squeezed in. Like, it was comfortable. So I have to consider where I'm going. It depends on the type of music, the artist, but someone like SZA, who's young and her fans are young, it's just a different scenario. So that's that. But great show. She's amazing. I enjoyed myself, and I was home by like 11:30. I was like, go SZA on a Monday night. Oh, I was hyped. I was like, yes, I get sleep too. But that's that. So that was the positive. Let's go into the other shit. So number 1, I'm going to talk briefly about the Nelly rape allegations. So on Saturday, Nelly was arrested for allegedly raping someone on his tour bus. Like most of these stories, it's always it's the same shit. Like, she lying, or, he didn't do that, or... it's always, the same story. Because he's a good looking guy, and because he's famous, it always has to be a setup or a conspiracy. And I think there's more details that need to suffice to really put a judgment on it. Like, I don't have anything to say about the particular case, but what I will point out is she went to the cops really close to the time that it allegedly happened. And I think that's great, because I was talking to my best friend Christina about this. We're like, with rape cases, we never ever give the victim the benefit of the doubt. Well, men at least. It's always on some, why'd you wait so long? Or why were you in that? Like, we like to victim blame. In this case, she called the cops almost immediately after it happened, and they were there after that, and he was arrested by 7 a.m. That is a fast moving arrest, and I don't know, I feel like that kind of works in favor to let you know that something's up. You know what I mean? Like, it lets you know that it's, like, it's like one of those things, like, we never give women the benefit of the doubt. I'm not saying he did it. I'm not saying she's lying. I'm not saying anything. I'm just saying, if anything, she went straight to the cops. And that's one of the biggest criticisms that people always use, like with the Bill Cosby stuff and all that. Well, why'd you wait so long? Or why'd you do this? Okay, in this case, it happened close to the alleged time that it happened. So I just want to point that out. Number 2, to remind you all again, just because Nelly's attractive and wealthy and can have any woman per se, which is never the truth, does not mean he's not capable of sexual assault. I'm not saying he did it, but I'm pointing out the fact anyone is capable of raping someone. One other thing about Nelly before I get into the bigger meat of this. The thing about him singing with the little girl. This is kind of unfair with society. Nelly's been doing that for quite some time. He's been bringing young fans on stage for a while, and a lot of artists have done that. It's just that we have certain rules for men and women and white people and black people that make things be like red flags. Nelly's been doing that for years and no one cared, like at all. It's because of the timing of the rape allegations, and now it's like, oh, this is creepy. And that's kind of fucked up on society's part, because we allow certain things when we think like, oh, everything's all hunky-dory. But then when something like this happens, and it starts becoming this whole, oh, the signs were there. Once again, we don't know all the facts, and we may never know all the facts because we weren't there. I'm not saying he did it. I'm not saying the girl is lying. I'm not saying any of that. But there's certain facts that we don't know, and I'm just pointing that out. That's I don't really care about the details. I just know, like, in rape cases, a lot of times the men get off, and it's fucked up because it's like, how do you know? Like, people always have this idea, like, what if she's lying and, you know, she's just trying to take a black man down, blah, 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 blah. But that's the problem with rape culture. We shame every victim. No one ever gets justice for having someone take their body without their permission. You know what I mean? And that's what sucks about it. So, but I'm not going to argue this because I wasn't there. But just pointing out just the obvious things here. Anyway, so it made me think more about rape in general. And I was telling Christina this. I was like, I feel like rape, people who are rapists, it's a lot like in the mindset of pedophilia, where you feel like it's kind of like maybe an imbalance, like a brain imbalance or something, where that's what you're drawn to. Like, there's something in pedophiles that make them drawn to children. You know what I mean? Like, there's something in them that's not like everyone else. I hate the word normal, but you know, it's not like everyone else, you know? And I feel like it's kind of the same for rapists. I feel like there are people who like seeing, who are sexually turned on by people under duress and stress. They like seeing people say, no, stop, don't do this. I said no, get off me. Like they get a rush and a hard on, to say the least, off of people, seeing people stressed out and not wanting them to have sex with them. They get turned on by it. And I think the thing, and like I said, this isn't even about Nelly anymore. It's just a catalyst for what I want to talk about. And we're not pointing out certain triggers that are leading to this. For example, when it comes to pedophilia, when it comes to incest, when it comes to rape, we never examine the porn industry. I am a porn watcher, okay? And I'm not about to shame any porn, but I have questioned some of the top videos, some of the popular videos. If you go on Pornhub, if you go on Spank Bang, X Video, whatever, you will see that some of the top videos are either rough porn, like rough sex, like kind of rape culture shit, like girls are tied up or they're kidnapped, and it's called like it's used, like one of them is like punishher.com. That's some of the top porn. Another one is Family Taboo, and that's incest type porn, brothers and stepsisters and stepfathers and stepdaughters and mothers and stepsons. It's incest porn. That's another top one. Another one is petite porn, where it's like girls who are 18 and of age, but they look like they're very, very young, and they're very, very small and tiny. And they usually have sex with men who are, you know, tall as fuck, you know, of different stature. So every time I see this, I always think to myself, at what point do we realize that this does transfer into the real world? I know that people argue, oh, it's just fantasy. But how long after watching this stuff before you want to actually do it. I mean, it works that way with regular sex. I mean, when I watch porn, regular gay porn or whatever, I want to fuck. And I want to do some of the shit that's in the video. I know my limits, but I want to do shit that's in the video. So how is this any different for these other genres of porn that are emulating rape, pedophilia, and incest? Come on now, the stepfather and the stepdaughter. How many times have you seen that story in the news? How many times have you seen that story in the fucking news? And then with the whole petite thing, that's odd to me. Like, what is it in a man that desires little, short, thin girls? Like, what is it in him that turns him on? That's really close to teenagers, really close to little girls. It's just close. I'm not saying it is, but it's very close to it. How long before that becomes another pedophilia case? That's what I'm saying. Like, we keep saying it's fantasy, but there's literally genres and they're the top videos. Like, they're the most watched on these sites. The most viewed are those three. How long before this actually transfers into reality? And guess what? It's been doing that for years. And because there are people who are turned on by this stuff. And we never talk about that because, because of, people want to enjoy themselves. And I get it. I love porn. I really do. I love porn. Like, that's my safest sex, with self. But there are some things that really teeter on the line that will push you into being tempted by that stuff. And I think that's what we really need to talk about. And I really feel like people who are rapists, pedophiles, and incestuous, it's an imbalance, really. And it's just something in them that's what they desire. And it's, it's sad. And there's so many helpless people out there who have to be victims to that. And I don't know, but yeah, I just say, just pay attention to the details and the roots of these things, because this isn't the first case and it damn sure ain't the last. This shit happens often. Every day is somebody else. And like I said, I don't know anything about the Nelly thing. It'll pan out the way it's going to pan out. But something tells me it's just going to be another case of someone where someone's a celebrity and they get off and automatically because they're a celebrity. That's just that. But yeah, blah, 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 blah. Moving on. So the Dove controversy. So once again, I just want to talk about kind of the facts. So earlier this week, there was a Dove ad that was posted on social media. It was an ad, you guys. It was just a picture of a black woman taking off her shirt, and then there was a white woman below her. So it was like she was turning into a white woman, or she was moving her shirt, and then the whole idea was like, oh, use Dove to, cleanse your skin, blah, blah, blah. So of course people went crazy because it did appear to be kind of like use this to get clean. There was a lot of different innuendo in it, pretty much saying that in a way it looked like black was dirty and white was clean. And that's what the ad gave, okay? And then, so people went off, they're like, let's boycott Dove, blah, 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 because we tend to jump to conclusions really, really quick. And I'm not saying that black people as a whole are wrong for this, because the ad was suspect as fuck. So it turns out the ad, which was separate, I want to point this out because I got something for you people who were saying I got some shit for you other people later. There was an ad first. The ad was a part of an actual commercial that was on television as well. So in that ad, it just shows, in the commercial, it's different women. It was a black woman. She turns into a white woman. The white woman turns into a Latin woman, and so on and so on and so on. So it was more like a multi-ethnicity situation, which in that context, not a big fucking deal. So two things here. The ad itself, like the GIF or the GIF that they were using, where they were just changing from the black woman to the white woman. That was problematic. Someone in the marketing team who spliced that for the ad should have, like, there had to be someone there to say this is a bad idea. That was in bad taste. That was wrong. And that's what Dove apologized for. Okay? The commercial itself was not a big deal at all. The commercial in full context is cool. Here's my issue. Yes, I do feel like we as black people do kind of become very, very sensitive with everything. Like, there are a lot of things that we boycott like every other day. Sometimes it's justified, sometimes it's not. The ad itself, justified. Because the way that it was edited, it did look like the black woman was turning into a white woman, blah, blah. But I'm sure that could have been changed by just switching up the order of them, and it wouldn't have mattered that much. But whatever. The commercial itself, not a big deal at all. Like, if they, like, once again, if they would have just switched the order of the black woman and the white woman, no one would have cared. So that wasn't a big deal at all. So on the other spectrum of it, you have people who are like, oh, you niggas, y'all get mad at everything. It's so stupid. You didn't even look at the commercial. Y'all dumb. Hello, here's the commercial. All right. To you people, there were two different pieces of work. One was an ad. One was the full commercial. The outrage was about the ad. There was no way to know that that was a part of the commercial unless you saw both of them. People weren't getting mad at the clip of the commercial. They were getting mad at the actual ad that showed a black woman turning into a white woman. That's what the outrage was over. So you are just as wrong by going off on a whole community of people talking about, oh, see, this is why we can't get ahead because y'all don't get the full facts. No. There was an ad. The ad was problematic. That's what Dove apologized for, and rightfully so. The commercial was separate. The commercial is what saved them. They said, okay, look, we made a misstep with the ad. We shouldn't have cut it that way. Here is the full commercial to see what we actually did. And that was to clear it up. But the outrage wasn't misplaced. The ad was chopped wrong. It did look very problematic and racist. Okay? The commercial put everything in context. Now, granted, we probably could have waited longer to see what Dove would say, but who knew? Who fucking knew? So, I just want to point that out. There's a lot of times where everyone's wrong, okay? Everyone's going off of limited information and going off on other people for not having enough, even though they don't have enough information. So, that's all I'm going to say about that. The ad itself was problematic. Dove apologized for it. Will I be boycotting them? Not really. The commercial itself, not a big deal. But yeah, there were two different pieces of work. It wasn't just a piece of one. Like, there were two different things put out to different people. Like, the ad was put on Facebook and, magazines and shit like that, just as a black and white woman. The commercial showed the full spectrum. And that's where it all comes from. So, yeah, enough about that. Moving on. Final news piece today. So, the Cam Newton thing. I hope I don't spend too much time on this either. So, you guys probably saw this. Last week, Cam Newton was like in a press conference. A reporter who was a white woman, she asked him about routes, and she was asking him about, like, his skill and, in sports and shit like that, blah, blah. And so he responded, he looked at her with this kind of dumbass grin, like, it's crazy hearing females talk about routes, Okay. So, two things here. Cam is trash for that. He's just trash for that. Like, straight men, preferably straight black men, because I don't hear any other race of men call women females except black, straight fucking men. And I kid you not. I don't hear any other race of men do this, because y'all do have issues with objectifying women. Just keep it real. You just do. Now, other races of people have issues. Everyone objectifies women. I'm not saying that black people, black men, straight black men are the only ones who do it. But we do have a very strange history at talking about women in a very objectifying way. I don't give a fuck if you like saying female. It's fucked up. It's fucked up. Stop saying female. Stop saying these females. Stop. Like, it's different if you say female reporter or female journalist and blah, blah. That's a different story. That's the use of it. But when you say, oh, these females, oh, this one female, oh, these females out here, because here's the thing, you never hear anyone say males. You never say, oh, these males is crazy. It's always men and females, and you're othering women. And what I can't deal with are straight men trying to defend the use of this word. Stop. You're not the one who's offended by it. I can't, like, if you're the one using it and it's offending people, stop. And what it does is it removes the identity from women. It really does. It's like these females, like, it's just like they're a bunch of it's stop. Just stop using it. So number one, that was very sexist of him because it implied, number one, I never heard of female. That was the first infraction. Number one, because it's like a other, like, other. And then the idea that women can't know about sports. They're just there. It objectifies them. It's very much like, oh, women are there for sexual pleasure and they're there for me, but for them to, have jobs and be reporters and be journalists and actually have a working brain that's into sports and know about skill. Oh, that's foreign to me. It's 1958. Like, trash on two fronts. So yes, Cam was completely fucking wrong for that. Second part. After this, Cam fans and black people across the world said, okay, well, the woman was white, so let's find something on her. So they found some racist tweets that she tweeted years ago, and they brought her to task on it. All right. So number one, she was trash for that. So fuck her for her racism, and she can keep her apology for that. But this is not erasing Cam's sexism. A lot of people feel like if they can find shit on the victim, that it somehow erases what the suspect did. And this is a lot like police brutality. And this is why y'all got mad when they said that black men are the white people of black people, because y'all do the same shit that white people do to us, to women. They just like Trayvon Martin or Michael Brown or Sandra Bland. What happened? What does the media do? They dig up the victims' their records and see, oh, look, they smoked weed or they did this. See, they deserve to die. They deserve that. They weren't good. This is what black men have done, or black people in general. Let's find something on the person that he offended. And so she's wrong for her racist shit. This is not a matter of what's greater. Racism and sexism are both issues, and we need to make sure that we understand they are both issues. One doesn't trump the other. They're both problems in our community. He doesn't get a pass because she said some racist shit years ago. Fuck that. He's still fucked up for that, and she's still fucked up for her racism. Let's stop trying to erase one with the other. It doesn't work that way. They're both fucking issues. Racism, sexism, homophobia, issues. Nothing trumps the other. He's still trash for saying what he said. His apology was kind of weak. He only apologized because he's about to lose endorsements and shit, per normal. And it just shows you the type of guy that he is and how he thinks. And she's trash for her racism and how she thinks. So fuck both of them. But understand that these issues are still issues. Just because someone does something, finding dirt on the other person does not alleviate the first person for their infractions. Okay? That's that. All right, I'm going to take a quick break and we'll be right back. We'll talk about why I am selfish as fuck. Hey guys, hope you're enjoying this week's episode of the Outline Podcast. I want to let you know that Audible is offering one free audiobook and 30 days free to the listeners of the podcast. You can redeem this by going to www.audibletrial.com/outlinepod. I would recommend listening to My Voice, a memoir by Angie Martinez. She talks about her current reign at Power 105.1 and nearly 2 decades at Hot 97, where she had the highest rated radio show in the country. She interviewed all the greats like Nas and Jay-Z and Beyonce, all the greats Angie Martinez has interviewed. She even talks about back when she did Ladies Night with Little Kim and her relationship with Mary J. Blige. It is a really great listen and or read if you still want to read. But you can check it out for free at Audible. So go there right now, www.audibletrial.com/outlinepod. All right, let's get back to the show. Welcome back to the Outline Podcast. So I consider myself selfish. And not in the way that you're thinking, not in that arrogant, narcissistic, I don't care about nobody but myself type way. I mean in a living my best life kind of way. I spent so many years of my life living for other people, and it left me with very, very, very little. And then I started to realize, what am I getting from sacrificing all that I have for other people, and I have nothing to show for it? And then you have to ask yourself, like, how do you pour from an empty cup? Like, how do you do that? You can't. You have to take care of yourself. So that's when I started saying, you say selfish like it's a bad thing. So let me give you a little background to me. And I don't know if I've talked about this on the show. It's getting to the point now that I've done so many shows, I don't know what the hell I talked about anymore. And it just is what it is. So growing up, I was a mama's boy. And, I got what I wanted, but I also felt like it came on the idea that I gave my parents whatever they wanted. I was a very sensitive child. You could just have a little bit too much bass in your voice and I'd probably cry or at least tear up. Like it was tough for a while. I was definitely the one like, you can't be doing all that crying all the goddamn time. Boys ain't supposed to cry like that, but that's a whole nother thing. So I was a very sensitive child. So me being sensitive, I always wanted to please people because I didn't want to get the backlash of not doing so. Whether people would disagree with me and I'd be upset because I'm like, oh my God, I'm not approved by, I'm not approved of, I mean? I always felt kind of like I always had to fit in. I always had to please people with friendships. And I have some terrible stories of things that I did just to please people. One just came to mind that wasn't even on the books, but I remember I was staying with my sister. Oh my God. I'm like literally cringing right now because I remember just the feeling and the rush and kind of the embarrassment of it all and kind of learning about human nature. I was staying with my sister. My sister was like, she's like 16, 17 years older than me. So I had to be about 5. So she was definitely in her, no, I'll say 6. Whatever. I was a young child. And I really want to know how old I was. Fuck. Let's say 7, because I'm trying to make the story make sense. But anyway, I used to stay with her in her apartments, back in the day, hood living. She could leave me in the house and it'd just be fine. Like I was I'd be good. I was just going to watch BET and be good. So I think she went to a dentist and I think her boyfriend may have been there. I don't remember. But she used to buy those big ass boxes of chips. Like those, I don't know if you guys remember them. They still have them, but you get them for like school events. Well, when people sell them, it's like 50 bags of chips or whatever. And I remember I went outside. Yeah, her boyfriend had to be there because I went outside. They wouldn't let me go outside. So I think her boyfriend was there. Anyway, so I went outside and I was talking to I think the next door neighbor. Were playing, just kids playing or whatever. And I think I gave them a bag of chips. Oh my God, the story makes me cringe still. Anyway, so that happened. So another person in the apartment complex came, another kid, and they were like, "Oh my God, where'd you get chips from?" He's like, "Oh, he gave it to me." And he was like, "Oh, can I have a bag of chips?" I'm just like, "Sure." So I went and got them a bag of chips. Once again, I'm thinking to myself, "Oh, this is so cool. I'm making friends." Blah blah blah. Well, that spread quickly. Then another person came and was like, "Oh, I want a bag of chips." So you know where the story's going. So maybe 20, 30 minutes later, I had given out probably 30 bags of chips to different kids in the damn complex. And it was crazy because it went from me being like everyone's friend and, oh, he's cool as fuck. He gave us free chips, da 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 da. And then it descended really, really quickly because my sister came home and I actually wasn't even near I was like in the complex, but I wasn't near the actual apartment. I heard her scream my name, and her and my mom were real good at screaming my name very loudly. They were good at making sure I heard them. It was just like, "Kevin!" And then I remember seeing all these kids say, "Ooh, you in trouble." And that was my first kind of moment of like, fuck y'all. Like, y'all didn't say shit when I was giving you the chips. Y'all didn't say shit about any of that. And then it became this whole, well, you shouldn't have did it. And so, oh my God. And I remember being scared for my life because my sister was very aggressive. I mean, she never really hit me, but I just remember her being very just aggressive, you know, like whatever. So I was like, fuck. So I was embarrassed, and of course I'm crying because I'm just like, how did this, like, it just got out of hand really, really quickly, and I had no kind of conscience towards it. I was just giving out chips, not thinking like, oh, this shit's gonna run out, somebody paid for this. That was far from my mind. And I remember her going off like, I remember she bought me some food, like, I bought you some food, but you probably gonna give that away too. And she's like, these ain't your friends and all that. So I had to learn that story the hard way. And I remember the next door neighbor was like, man, why'd you give out all those chips? I was like, nigga, you're the one who, I didn't say nigga at the time, but I'm like, you're the one who told people that I gave them to you, you know? And so, but that was like my first kind of lesson in like people pleasing. And I had many more to go after that. But that's kind of how I grew up. I grew up very insecure, you know, very like feeling like I had to go out of my way to do things for people and they didn't have to do anything for me. Like none of those friends, those people did anything for me when I gave those chips away. They all ran away on their bikes and was like, ooh, there you go. And I feel like that was kind of a metaphor for a lot of my life. So I lived my life that way. Another scenario I remember in middle school, my mom put me in a private school for middle school. I went to a public school for elementary school, but you know, I had a lot of issues. Not a lot of issues. Like no one ever hit me or I never got any fights, but I did get bullied in a way about, you know, being gay and stuff like that, you know, name calling and, you know, jacket stealing, you know, stupid shit. So my mom was like, I'm gonna put you in a private school, as if that would change much. I mean, it was better, but you know, still got called a fag. It is what it is. But whatever. But I remember going to this middle school and not fitting in. I remember all the kids there. It was a K through 8th school. 90% of the kids there knew each other from preschool. So anybody who came in, they kind of were like, who are you? You know what I mean? And that's kind of how it felt. So I'm in this school and I'm trying to, you know, once again, you know, click with people. So, you know, I was a big music fan from day one, big music fan. And my mom specifically told me she didn't know anything about private schools, so she assumed. She's like, okay, well, this is a Christian school, so don't take nothing up there secular. Don't take none of your CDs. Don't take nothing to that school. So, obviously, me being hard-headed, there was a guy that I wanted to be friends with there, and I kind of had a crush on him too, by the way. Whatever, it was what it was. So I knew that he liked Mariah Carey and Toni Braxton. Well, I had a Right On magazine that had both of them in it, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna take this to school, and you know, we could just talk about it. So that morning, same thing happened. Brought it to school. We were talking about it. It was a dope ass moment, and it actually kind of made us friends. So it kind of worked in that way. So we actually started kind of vibing on that or whatever. Anyway, this girl came, fucking Kimberly. Kimberly came and was like, oh my God, I think it had like, Genuine or some guy artist on there that she wanted to see. I don't remember. And she was like, oh my God, can I have this magazine? And I was just like, and I thought she was really, really pretty. And this was during the time where I definitely knew I wasn't into girls, but I did like pretty girls, if that makes sense. I mean, gay men are like that anyway. Look at how we are with Beyonce, Rihanna, whatever. I did like pretty girls. And if anything, I was still trying to figure out my sexuality anyway. But it was kind of like, she's pretty. She could have it. So I gave her the magazine. And she kept it on her desk. So, well, the teacher came and took it from her. And I was like, what the fuck? So I was like, well, shit, it's hers now. So he's like, oh, okay. He's like, so, where'd you get this? Blah, blah. He's like, oh, it's Kevin's. I was just looking at it. And I was just like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, I gave you that damn magazine. So he confiscated it and he put it in his little closet or whatever. And then I'm like freaking out. So there was this other little girl who we're all grown now, and I'm still friends with her. Shout out to Lene. Lene and we had an interesting, like, we were friends. Like, she from first day, she was like really, really cool with me. And she was like, oh my God, what happened? I was like, well, I gave it to her and then he took it and she was like, okay. I was like, my mom is going to be so mad if I get in trouble for that. Like, she told me not to bring anything here. So, freaking out. So she's like, I'll go see what he's going to do with it. So she went up to the desk and was like, hey, like, so what happens when, you take stuff away? Like, do we get it back or whatever? And I overheard him say, well, I'm going to look through it to make sure it's like appropriate. And if it's inappropriate, I'll probably have to contact the parents and, that's that. But that's the only way you'll get it back is if the parents come get it or blah, blah, blah. And I was like, well, shit, I don't want it back. Like, he can have it. It's a magazine. I don't need it or whatever. But anyway, so once again, people pleasing and trying to connect with people, and it bites me in the ass. But here's the gag about that. So I went home that day and I decided, let me get ahead of this, because I have the type of mom, like, don't let me find out you did some shit. You better just tell me. So I told her. She cussed me out from here to the moon. Like, oh my God, like, she cussed my ass out. Because it was within like 2 weeks of her telling me not to do it. So fair enough. But here's the thing. Nothing ever happened. He never called her. Never saw the magazine again. Nothing ever happened. I told on myself. But whatever. People pleasing. So those are 2 stories there. I didn't expect to tell those 2, by the way. So whatever. Those are bonuses. But I think the biggest thing for me that made me say I need to start living for myself was when I had to go to reparative therapy. And I know I've talked about this briefly, and there's been a video on my YouTube about it. But when I was 17, I told a good friend of mine that I was gay. Okay? And things kind of went downhill from there, to say the least. Some of it was my fault. Some of it was her fault. Because, it was one of those things where I was up against a tight family knit. I went to a Christian school. People have certain beliefs, and it just is what it is. So I feel like I'm confiding in someone, but in reality, they're telling their parents everything that I'm telling them. And that was fucked up. And but that was the way they were raised, or whatever. Anywho, one thing led to another because of my own negligence and because of, just how things happen. But some people, some parents, some people that I kind of grew up with, they found out that I was gay. And they were threatening to tell my parents before I was ready to tell them. And I was like, that's not going to happen. Like, that's fucked up that you even do that. Like, you're putting me at risk. You don't know how Black people view homosexuality. They were white, by the way. You don't know how Black people view homosexuality, and you're putting me at risk because you feel like, we need to tell a parent because you're not an adult yet. So whatever. So after begging and pleading and like saying, no, you cannot tell my parents, they're like, okay, well, you're going to have to agree to fix this. I'm like, okay. So at this point, they actually put me in reparative therapy. I had a free period in high school. It was senior year of high school, and I was done with all my credits, so I had a free period. So I actually lied and told my parents that I was going to some student council shit. And in that period, a counselor at the school would drive me to a nearby church, and I would meet with this pastor and sit with him for like 45 minutes of him telling me that I was going to hell if I didn't stop being attracted to men and all that shit and blah, 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 blah. I went to conferences and shit with Exodus International, which is now defunct. Like they apologize for all the pain they put people through, suicides and shit like that. So I did that for a while, and it got to a point that I started believing that something was wrong with me, and I wanted to please all of these so-called friends around me who were in church and who were in these youth groups and who I was close with. I just wanted them to be happy with me. So I was like, you know what? Me being gay is just not pleasing to them, and I need to get rid of this. I literally, oh my God, like, y'all don't understand. Like, and it plagued me until I was about 22. Because the first time I was 17, and I had sworn off everything. I wasn't really sexually active yet. I was sexually active. I had like one boyfriend who was hella older than me. But then after that, I didn't really have a way of meeting people. So that senior year of high school, I was really devoted to I'm gonna get through this. The Lord is gonna change my sexuality. He's gonna make me, straight. And it was some bullshit, yo. Like, oh my God. Like, I look back out, it was such a painful time. It was such a fucking painful time. So, then when I turned 18, I was like, fuck this. Like, when I graduated high school, I was like, no, fuck this. I started going out. I met my friends. I met Charles, and I met everyone, and I was like, okay, no. But at that time, I still felt like I was sinning. I was still very much a Christian. I still felt like, oh, this is wrong, but whatever. I'm just, just hoping God's grace covers me, but it is what it is, but I still felt like the way I was living was wrong. But what happened was, every time bad shit would happen, like natural growing pains, like, oh, I got a flat tire, oh, I got a ticket, I would always think, oh, it's because I'm gay and I'm being punished for it. It plagued the fuck out of me, y'all. Like, oh my God, it was a terrible time. But fast forward to being 21. I was 21 years old, and then I had like my first kind of real boyfriend, I thought. But looking back, that wasn't shit, because it wasn't actually that. We were together for a while, and he was, I don't know, he was kind of an asshole to me. No, he was an asshole to me. And when we broke up, it was very, very, very painful for me. Like, it was so painful. I mean, and it was because I was young. I didn't know anything about love. I was super infatuated with him. I would have done anything for him. And it was just young love gone too far. But when we broke up, it caused me it wreaked a lot of havoc on me. And that caused me to run back to the church. So I disappeared from all my gay friends and stuff like that. And I started going heavy on church again. I was like, I disappeared for almost a year. Yep. I disappeared from everything. I changed my phone number. I was going to church. I was celibate for I want to say, was it like 8 months, maybe? I don't know. I remember I wasn't masturbating. I wasn't doing anything. Like, I was literally like, I'm going to kick this. I'm going to move this out. And I remember going to church and being very honest about, my experience, and I also got baptized again. I was baptized when I was like 8. And I remember my mom had a fit. She's like, why would you get baptized again? That doesn't make any sense. I was like, well, when I was 8, I didn't know any better. I was a kid. Now I know what I'm doing. And she was just like, that's stupid, but okay. So I got baptized again at 22. Yeah, because it was a week after my birthday. It was at 22, I got baptized again. And I remember being in those churches and being very honest about, my past of struggling with same-sex attractions. And I remember how the church kept trying to get me to turn against just gay people in general. And, they wanted me to be like, oh, we need to do like an outreach, and we need to go to your old hangouts and try to pull those people in. Like, let's go to those clubs and let's do that. And I'm like, yeah, I'm cool on that. I don't want to do that. I'm still working on myself. Like, I'm still attracted to men. I'm just not acting on it. That attraction is not going away. So before I start doing that shit, I need to make sure that I'm good. And this is why I'm empathetic to like the Andrew Caldwells, because I know how aggressive church people can be when it comes to shaming homosexuality. And that's why I'm kind of empathetic to him, even though he's still kind of a buffoon. But I don't think he's all there anyway, so that's a whole nother thing. But anyway, so I tried hard. It was like a solid year. Yeah, when I was 22, I was like, I can't do this shit anymore. I was like, I cannot do this shit anymore. And then I went back. I was like, okay, I linked back up with Charles and all my friends and shit. A lot of people were mad at me. A lot of people were upset with me. They were like, you just fucking disappeared. And they had every right to be. They had every right to be mad at me. But I did it for myself, I thought, And then at that point, I was like, yeah, this shit is never going away. This shit is never going away. And so it got to a point, and that's when I started blogging. And I remember I did a video about being gay, and it just caused havoc on like all of like my Christian friends and stuff. And people are like, oh, don't call me, don't do this, like this is wrong, I can't see you go down this path anymore. And it was trash, but that moved me forward. So then I had a conversation with the people who are in my life. I said, listen, my sexuality is no longer up for debate, it's no longer up for discussion. It is who I am. Let's just love each other and let it be what it is. And they agreed. So that was that. And then at that point is when I was like, you know what? I can't do this anymore. And so a lot of that was me people pleasing. A lot of it was like, it wasn't that I didn't want to be gay. For me, is I didn't want to be gay because I didn't want people to be uncomfortable by me. I didn't want my mom to worry about me. I didn't want all this shit. You know what I mean? And if I had been a little bit more selfish and said, fuck them sooner, I probably wouldn't be telling the story. But at the same time, the story is what makes me, and it makes me who I am. So, after my parents passed, I was 26, and I lost my job and I moved to Atlanta. I had to start over, and I realized like nothing in this life is promised, so you have to live your best life. I left religion alone. A couple years later, I'm not. We've talked about this before. I'm not religious at all. I grew up in it, and I don't believe the same things. I just don't. I believe in a higher being, so you can call me agnostic, fine. But I'm not a Christian by any means of it. I don't believe in the Bible. I don't believe in a hell. I think that's trash. And that freed me from a lot of stuff, and it made me live a better life. The reason I live the way I do because I know this is my one life. That's why I live the way I do. I'm not going to, no, that's not that. So here we are. So after I moved here, I realized that I was still being a people pleaser. And, whether it was my roommate, whether it was my ex-boyfriend or ex-fiance rather, I was still very much pleasing people. And it caused me a lot of stress and just unnecessary bullshit. And so I got to a place after my last relationship ended and I finally got a place of my own. I started living for me. I started saying no when I didn't want to do stuff. I stopped giving resources when I didn't have them. I stopped just doing shit that I didn't want to do. Now, when I say selfish, I mean I honor myself first. It doesn't mean I'm not giving. It doesn't mean I don't donate. It doesn't mean I don't help friends in need. But I can't help you if I don't have the resources for myself first. And that's what I mean where I'm selfish. If I don't want to do something, I'm not going to do it for you. I'm not. So for example, if you're having an event and it's not like a major important event, it's just you just having something just to have it. If I don't want to fucking be there, I'm not going to be there. I don't give a fuck if you want me there. If I don't want to be there, I'm not going to be there because guess what? I'm going to be uncomfortable. So why the fuck am I going to be uncomfortable for your sake? No, fuck that. Get over it. Stop forcing people to do stuff that they don't want to do. It's the same with relationships. I give to people who give to me. I am all about reciprocation. I'm not selfish in the sense that it's all about me and not about you. No. If we're in something, it's about us. Okay? So if you give, I give. But until then, I'm not giving up of me just for your pleasure. Fuck that. And I don't expect that from anybody else. When I date people, I don't expect them to roll no red carpet out for me. I don't expect them to pay for shit. I don't expect people to do anything. I appreciate it and I will reciprocate it, but I don't expect it. So I'm not the type of selfish that means people have to do shit for me and it's all about me. No, not at all. What I mean by that is I do for myself. I spoil myself. I do things for myself. So therefore, I don't have to worry about anybody doing anything for me. You know what I mean? If they do it, I appreciate it and I'll reciprocate it. But I'm going to honor myself first. This is why I changed my diet. This is why I do yoga. This is why I do photography. This is why I have a smile on my face. It's because I honor myself. I don't shame myself for honoring myself. We live in a society that people feel like you shouldn't be selfish. You shouldn't be about yourself. You shouldn't be confident. You shouldn't feel like you should have attention. You literally should just compromise everything, give everything away. For what? For what? I never understood the whole idea of being a sacrificial lamb for somebody else's cause. Somebody is benefiting from you being so giving, if that makes sense. Like you're giving just to give, but you're not getting anything. Like, and I think that's also religion too. The whole idea, don't give to receive. Don't do that. No, give to receive. Give from your heart. Like, for example, for hurricane relief, I give to stuff like that. For tragedies, for people who don't have resources, people who don't have anything, I give to those causes. Poverty, volunteer work. I'm all about that. That's where I'm giving. And I don't expect anything in return. But when it comes to relationships and all that, I'm not giving all of myself to someone or something and not getting a return on it. I don't see the point of that. Because you can't say, oh, I'm going to get love in return. No, you're not. You're going to get resentment. They're going to think they can run over you. They're going to think they can use you. That's all that is. You're not getting love in return. You shouldn't have to give of yourself just to get love. Love will be there regardless. Period. So I'm always going to look out for me first. And that's why I say I'm selfish as fuck. I'm always going to look out for me first. If I'm not feeling something, I'm not doing it. And you can be mad about it. If I don't want to share something, I'm not sharing it. And you can fucking be mad about it. Because guess what? Your feelings are a choice. You choose to be mad at my so-called selfishness. But trust and believe, if I have friends who are going through it, I'm going to be there for them. If I can support them anyway, I'm going to support them. I give to causes that deserve that. You know what I mean? So I'm not selfish in that way. I'm very giving. And I reciprocate, but you have to earn that shit. I don't just go into the world just saying, I'm going to give all of me just to give. No, I'm not that person. If I'm uncomfortable, I'm not doing it. I say no when I want to say no, and it holds a valid weight. And guess what? I'm happy because of it. I spent so much of my life pleasing other people and doing things, and I was left with nothing. Absolutely nothing. Like, I got nothing from giving to people. Nothing. But guess what? I have everything now by honoring myself first. And I hope you do the same. Be more selfish. Don't use selfish as a bad word. Now, selfish and narcissistic and arrogant are all different words. They're all different words. Like, I do not think it's all about me at all. I don't go into spaces wanting everybody to focus on me. Actually, I wish you wouldn't. I wish you would just leave me the hell alone, to be honest with you. I don't like in relationships, I don't expect to get my way. I don't expect any of that because I know that by me honoring myself, I'm going to do what I need for my own peace and my own sanity. So I don't expect anybody to cater to me. I'm not that guy. And so that's not what I mean, but I know that those get interchanged. People think selfish, they think arrogant, they think, overly confident, they think, it's all about you. Not at all. I don't think anything's about me. I know that I'm just a little small fragment in this world. A small fragment. And I ain't shit. But I do give to myself first. I do honor myself first. And that makes me selfish as fuck. And that's all I got. So thank you for listening to the show. Make sure you are subscribed on SoundCloud, Stitcher, Apple Podcasts, Google Play Music. Please go to KevinDwayne.com for more information. Share with your friends, rate, comment. And as always, thank you so much for rocking out with me every week. You guys are always a great support, and I love you all. And I'll talk to you all next week. Peace out.